I want to talk about the biggest mistakes I see coaches making that's keeping them from consistent 10, 20k months. And this comes from speaking to far too many coaches recently who are highly qualified, highly skilled, heart-led, have really pure intentions, but are struggling in their business, and they really shouldn't be. But I can see the mistakes they're making. And in this video, I want to share some of those mistakes I see those coaches making, struggling coaches, and also share the mistakes that I made on my journey to multiple six figures. And, this comes from, speaking to hundreds of coaches, and of course my own journey. So I want to start with the biggest mistake I made at the start of my coaching journey. So at the start of my business, I was really fueled by a lot of impatience, and that impatience was both ego driven, but also a real necessity to make money. My wife was about to go on maternity leave and not make any money. My first food tech business that I raised £1 million for and got to a pretty good size was wiped out by COVID and left me in a hole of debt at that point. So I had some genuine requirements to make short-term capital, and so that fueled some real impatience. Now, out of the gate, I created a few clients that really built a lot of confidence in me, but also fueled this impatience. And I, like a lot of newer coaches, was sucker or easy prey to marketing ads, agencies promising the whole 6 figures in 6 weeks, and I fell prey to one of those ads, and I built out this all singing, all dancing funnel, a low ticket to medium ticket to high ticket funnel. It was a kind of classic guru model at the time, and I poured a lot of money into that. And it's not to say that that funnel wouldn't have worked. It absolutely would. But funnels like that need traffic, a lot of traffic, because it needs time to test, to iterate, to get to a point of profitability. And I didn't have traffic. I had a tiny audience, and so the only way for me to get that traffic was to buy ads or drive traffic through ads. So being the impatient, egotistical version of me, I took out a credit card and I chased it. And I chased, and I put a ton of money through these ads, and it was getting close to a point of profitability, but I couldn't go deeper into the red. And it got to a point I was so far in debt, as around 30 or 40k, that I basically had to pull the plug. And it broke me. It genuinely broke me. I really questioned myself. I thought I was destined to be a failure. And I really wondered if this whole coaching thing was for me. But I was also just not ready to give up on my dream as a coach. I really wasn't. And I thought, look, let's go for one more go. I'll have one more go. And I took out the money, the last of the money that I made from that funnel, which was, I think a couple of £1,000, and I paid for 1 month with a coach called Alistair Gray, which was £2,000, which is a lot of money for me at the time. But that was my belief in coaching, which will be a point I'll get to in a bit. And from there, we really simplified, and we got back to the basics of what coaching is about. Being in conversations, connecting with people, coaching and making offers. And once I did that, my business really quickly turned around. In fact, I created 4 2.5k clients within pretty much 4 to 6 weeks. I then filled a group coaching program with 12 men, each paying $2,500, around 3 months after that. So my business moved pretty quickly, having really simplified and got back to basics. And that's really the first mistake I see a lot of coaches making, is falling prey to these nice thoughts and doing the wrong things, essentially. And the wrong things before you're at consistent 10k months are things like building an all singing, all dancing funnel, building out low ticket, medium ticket offers. That sounds right in there, isn't it? Building out low ticket, medium ticket offers and their sort of complex ascension model. Branding, spending loads of money on personal branding building out a massive website, all of that stuff, it feels good and it feels like the right thing to do. And if you read some of these very traditional, dated business books, it's like, find a niche, build a website, build a funnel and launch. It's like, yeah, mate, have you actually built a coaching business? Are you in the trenches? No, bruv. So that's really the first mistake, is just doing the wrong things. And that's fueled by a lack of knowledge, a lack of experience. A lot of coaches have never built a coaching business before, or even a business for that matter. And there's a lot of fear there. There's a lot of fear of selling. There's a lot of fear of marketing. There's a lot of fear of putting yourself out there. And it's therefore really easy to believe the idea of, once I just build a website and nice personal branding, people will come to me. And it's a really nice thought. But what I call that is fear in fancy dress. I call it for what it is. And it was true for me. When I invested in this complex funnel, I thought, this funnel will save me. This funnel will be the thing. And I see that far too often with struggling coaches who have this idea of they are one funnel away. External things like a website, personal brand will fix their business, in avoidance of the things that actually move their coaching business forward, which is being in conversations, coaching every single day, and making offers every single day, which requires putting yourself out there, fear of rejection, making offers, hearing no's, getting ghosted, looking small, all of those things. So that's the first mistake. Now, another mistake I see coaches making, and if I reflect back on that time in my coaching career where I really wanted to give up, the first thing I did was invest in a coach, and that was the level of conviction in coaching I had. I had seen the transformation personally prior to that with my first coach, and I believed wholeheartedly in coaching. And sure enough, it transformed me. It was rapid transformation. I not only started believing in myself more, my coach really helped remind me who I was. Yes, my first business failed, but I was someone who raised £1 million, built a team, sold to hedge funds, designed and built an app. Like, all of that stuff I had forgotten. But working with that coach at that time, he reminded me of all those things. He also got me back to the basics of coaching, as I say, being in conversations, serving, coaching, making offers. And sure enough, when I focus on those, as I said, my business rapidly grew. But what's also within that is the level of conviction I had in coaching. And I see this with struggling coaches. They just don't have the conviction in coaching, because if they would have a coach. Far too many coaches are trying to sell coaching, but they don't have a coach themselves. And what does that say to their clients if they're not willing to invest in themselves, if they're not willing to invest in coaching? There's not much conviction there. There's not much congruence there, in my opinion. And how this shows and manifests itself is pricing yourself down, also being far too much of a walkover when it comes to enrollment calls, and kind of self-sabotaging, where you kind of sneakily don't actually want the sale. So when you make the offer, you find ways of just getting out of the enrollment call. Things like, I'll email you the proposal, or little things like this, which just get you away from actually talking about money and making the sale, because there's a resistance to actually coaching, because there isn't a conviction that they can help their clients. I was so convicted, and I have so much conviction in coaching. I've invested so much money in coaching. I've just invested 20 grand, well, it's 30 grand this year alone in the last month on coaching, because I have so much conviction in it. Why? Because it's true. It's completely transformed me. So much of my success, fulfillment, transformation has come from working with my coaches. I am indebted to them. But what comes with that is a deep level of congruence and conviction in the power of coaches. The third mistake, And it was a beautiful lesson I learned from building a startup. My first business, this food tech business, I had this idea of essentially changing the way the world ate. At the time, a challenge of mine was eating healthy whilst on the go. I'd go to Pret and all these places and just eat crap, and I felt crap and I was putting on weight. And I thought, wouldn't it be amazing to have an app that tells you the best thing to eat for your goals, your restrictions, your preferences in any restaurant you go to. And it was a really big vision, and a vision that I, took to market and raised a lot of money for. But I made a really big mistake in my first iteration of the app I built. I built it without speaking to customers. So I went and designed and invested loads of my money in building out this app, with no customer data really. I would ask people, is this a good idea? I'd sort of crowdsource the ideation. Is this a good idea? I'd ask people. I'd ask my friend, I'm thinking of this. What do you think? And of course, everyone said, that's amazing. I love it. I would definitely download it. So I used that, and I used that data to really fuel my confidence. And I was delusional at the time, which was a big reason why I raised so much money and did so well. But I also could have saved myself years of pain and struggle, because that first app I built, I think it took around 9 months to a year. And when I launched it, guess what happened? Well, you can probably guess, right? Literally a handful of people downloaded it, and those that downloaded it never used it. And it was a really, really painful experience, but a really, really important one from then on, that I had to go through. And the lesson was, don't build then sell then build. And there's an amazing book called Lean Startup, which basically talks about how to do rapid iteration, how to run 2-week sprints where you test a hypothesis, you build it, and then you rinse and repeat essentially. And that is how what I also applied to my coaching business, and still to this day do. But I see far too many coaches building and then selling. So they go and create all the content, they go and build out all the systems and build out all the online platform and the community and what have you, and then they go and sell it, and no one comes, and they've wasted literally months. And often this is fear in fancy dress, and often is also a lack of experience, a lack of knowledge, having built a business. So my recommendation is to always sell then build. It's something I always do, I do with all my clients, is get them to run these rapid testing so they can really find out what the answer is. And within that, a big mistake is kind of avoiding failure. Again, in the startup world, failure is encouraged. Mark Zuckerberg's quote at the start of Facebook was, build things and break things, something like that. Build fast and break things, or something like that. Move fast and break things, that's it. And the idea is, it's only in the failure, it's only in the testing that we really find out what works and what doesn't. But again, I see far too many coaches avoiding failure because of this pressure that I mentioned at the start of this video. As you come into coaching, you find your calling and you're like, this is it, I never want to go back to that corporate career. There's a lot of pressure in that, and that manifests itself in playing small, playing safe, not putting yourself out there, not going all in, because if I go all in and then fail, then what does that mean for me? But my argument is, you just cannot fail if you go all in. Because when you go all in and it doesn't work out, you can rule out that strategy, rule out that market, rule out that messaging, rule out that offer. But if you half go in, if you half arse it and it fails, well, was it the effort or was it the strategy? You will never be able to say. So the only way to guarantee never failing is to go all in and to really embrace failures. I cannot say this enough. I have had so many failures, flops in the past. I've launched offers, I've run workshops, webinars with no one signing up to. I've run campaigns which had no sales, but I just used that as evidence, used that as data, and learnt from it, dusted myself off, and went again. So failure is a requirement, and I know you guys know this, but there's a difference between knowing it and actually embodying it and doing it. So the next mistake comes from an amazing story from, I think it's Frank Kern or one of those, Gary Halbert, I think it is, who asked his marketing students, if you had a hot dog stand, how would you, if you had a hot dog stand, you had one key secret ingredient to be the best hot dog stand in the world, what would it be? And some people put the best buns, some people put the best pricing, others put the best quality meat, the best cheeseburgers, blah 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 blah. And what Gary Halbert said is, look, you can have all of that, and I will still beat you with the one thing that I'm about to share. And the thing he shared was, the hot dog stand needs to have a starving market. So a hot dog stand with all of those things is always going to be beaten by a hot dog stand that's sitting outside of an American football stadium with no other competition around. The starving market always wins. And I see coaches making this mistake of basically trying to solve a problem that doesn't actually exist, or solving a problem that people aren't willing to pay for, that isn't such a hair on fire problem that people are actively trying to solve it. And what happens on the journey of transformation and becoming a coach is that we often forget the challenges that we once went through, and we focus on the things that we're struggling with right now. But the things that we're struggling with right now isn't even in the awareness of our previous version of ourselves or our dream clients. And the people that are struggling with the same challenges as us are not going to come to us for advice. They're going to come to people who've been through those challenges. And I experienced this firsthand when I first, early in my coaching journey, I kind of forgotten all of the things that I had been through. It's a classic case of curse of knowledge, where I just assumed the things that were now easy to me were easy to others. And I was really focusing on the things that I was struggling with at the time, or trying to learn at least. At that time I was really trying to learn around quantum physics and emotional awareness and presence and all these beautiful things that are now really deeply embodied in me. But at that time they weren't. So I was translating the things that I was reading, but they weren't embodied yet. And because of that, my audience just couldn't feel my embodiment. They couldn't feel the congruence with the message, nor did they want to learn from me about quantum physics and all these other things, because there were people much further ahead than me. And when I realized this, and also realized that my audience didn't even have an awareness of these things, I started to really think, okay, what were the things that I really struggled with, that were top of mind for me, that I really, really wanted to solve? What do my audience want? What are my audience asking me for? What do people come to me for advice for? And it was quite a humbling experience. But the things that people asked me about was around consistency, discipline, how do I wake up so early, my morning routine. These things were once a massive challenge to me, but at that time, they were really deeply embodied in me. But because of that, I had forgotten those things. But when I put that to the side, when I put my own agenda to the side and really started to meet my audience where they're at and started to speak their language, then my content really started resonating, and my business really started resonating too. I had an offer called the 5 a.m. Club. The first time I ran that, I had 250 clients, and then that led into an offer called the 63 Days to Personal Power, which was all about confidence, something that I'd really, really embodied at that time. So the way we get to this is, as I shared before, testing, embracing failure. What we're looking for is are the things that are deeply embodied in us, that we have a level of mastery, not perfection, but a level of mastery. things that we enjoy, things that we are passionate about and love reading about, then what our audience wants help with, and what our audience will pay for. It's the classic Ikigai framework, right? That's what we want, but we only get there through testing, through failing, and through action and through momentum. Which brings me on to one of the biggest mistakes coaches making. And it's really simple. It's just overthinking, really overthinking. Building a coaching business is really, really simple. That doesn't mean it's easy, but it is simple. And I'll get to why it's not easy, but it's so simple. It is a case of really understanding what our audience wants, what we can help them with, what they will pay for, and creating an offer around that. Then being in conversations every day. The foundations of building a coaching business is relationships. It's quite simple. If you're in no conversations, you have no business. So being in conversations every day. Selling the experience of coaching. You cannot explain to people what coaching is. You have to give them an experience of it. So coaching every single day. Creating value in the form of content, in the form of lives, in the form of long-form content, YouTube, email, whatever it is, but creating value that builds trust every single day, and then making offers. Whenever I want to make more money, or if I want to go through a big push in my business, the number that I track every single day is the amount of proposals I make. Because I know that the more proposals, or the higher amount I make in proposals, i.e. offers, the more I make. It's really, really very simple. That's how pros think. They focus on the inputs, not the outputs. Amateurs and struggling coaches focus on the outputs and they forget about the inputs, and they wonder, why am I struggling? And they overthink and they analyze and they brainstorm for days. Meanwhile, someone's out here taking action, moving forward. And a quote that has really helped me in my earlier days of a coach is, clarity reveals itself in momentum. Whenever I'm stuck, whenever I'm struggling, my goal is not the results. My goal is just build momentum. How do I build momentum? As I said before, get in conversations, speak to my clients, speak to my audience, start coaching, pick up the phone, start calling people, create something of meaning, a live, a workshop, some great content. And of course, if I do that for 2-3 weeks, my business starts shifting. It's one of the hardest things about business is that how our business is doing right now is a reflection of what we were doing the last 30, 60, 90 days. It's all about delayed gratification. And compound interest is one of the great wonders of the world and business. And I'm seeing it so much now with my own personal business. So I am working the least I've ever worked, but my business is growing really effortlessly and quite rapidly because I've been so consistent in this action. I don't overthink, I test, I put stuff out there, and I just stay with some real guiding principles for me, which is about staying connected to my truth in the content that I share, having real purity of intention. This really helps me with sales, with outbound, with conversations. Is really getting clear on the purity of my intentions. How we do that is we really work on our offer. We make sure it's priced in a way that we really have a lot of conviction and confidence in. And so I hope this has been helpful. This has been a bit of I'm not going to say rant, but it's something that's really, it's just like really alive in me right now, because I've just seen, as I say, far too many coaches, amazing coaches, heart-led coaches, who are struggling, and they shouldn't be, because they're taking the wrong actions. As I say, they're overcomplicating, overthinking, they're doing the wrong things, they have this belief that there's things outside of them, funnels, websites, branding, that's going to solve all their problems, and that it's taking them away from the essence of coaching, which, as I say, being in conversations, making offers, coaching every single day, creating something of value every single day. When you do that and you just trust that process, then things will grow. Now, of course, building systems will amplify all of that, but the foundations need to be put in first. Now, if you want help with building those foundations, if you want help with the mindset, the accountability, an action plan along with the systems that support all of that, just drop me a message on Instagram with the word collective, because as I say, this is simple, it's not easy. And the reason why it's not easy is because distraction, we get hounded every single day by everyone. Distraction, limiting beliefs. For many of us, we've never been taught how to sell, how to market, how to promote ourselves, how to build a business. So it's going against a lot of past inertia and past conditioning. So many challenges, but it is so simple, and that's really my greatest skill, is simplifying things. So it takes away the overwhelm, it takes away the confusion. You just know exactly what to do every single day, and I'll be there for accountability. And when you start doing that, like my clients, Len, who went from like random 5k months to back-to-back 20k months, Paul, who now runs a massive men's group and is making consistent 10k months, and I could go on. I'll drop a link to my client results here or somewhere over here. But anyway, sending you so much love. It's a beautiful day here in paradise in Portugal, and speak very soon.